Hey folks, Crimson Blaze here. Welcome to the channel. This is another video in my Hammock 101 series. And today we're going to be talking about more tips about how to sleep comfortable in your hammock. Let's get to it. The first video that I made about sleeping comfortable in a hammock was more around how to set up, prepare, and plan in order to have a good night's sleep. And I think what I overlooked were some of the basics of actually sleeping in your hammock. So that's what today's video is going to focus on, are some practical tips of how to sleep better in your hammock. The first tip I'm going to share with you is the type of hammock that you need to get a good night's sleep in your hammock. And that is an asymmetrical hammock. And the reason you want to get an asymmetrical hammock is because it helps you achieve a flat lay, which is important for sleeping well at night. So in an asymmetrical hammock, you're going to lay at an angle. You know, your shoulder will either be up on the right side of your hammock with your feet towards the left, or it'll be vice versa, depending on whichever one you like. But sleeping at that angle allows you to lay flat in your hammock. And that's important because that helps remove pressure points from your knees, your calves, and your heel. Because if you're not able to get a good flat lay in your hammock, then your legs are going to be sore. They're going to ache throughout the night and you're going to be moving around. And an asymmetrical hammock allows you to get that flat lay. Another tip on achieving that flat lay is looking at your ridgeline. So I highly recommend having a ridgeline on your hammock for multiple reasons. But for one main reason is that it helps me properly hang my hammock so that I can achieve that flat lay. Because if my hammock is too close and my ridgeline begins to sag and it's not tight, then I know I'm not going to be able to lay at that angle properly and lay flat. I'm going to start getting pressure points on my legs. But if it's just the right amount of tension, like I like having a little bend in my ridgeline, that lets me know that my hammock is hung properly. And when my hammock is hung properly, then I can lay in my hammock at an angle and achieve that flat lay. My next tip for sleeping comfortable in your hammock is another recommendation on the type of hammock that you should get. For me, I like to get a wide hammock. You know, not all hammocks come in wider versions, but my Dutch netless here that you see does come in a wider version and I love it. And the reason I recommend a wider version of your hammock is that it allows you greater movement for your left to right and your right to left when you're lying at an angle. To me, it's easier to get a flatter lay when you have a wider hammock. Plus, with a wider hammock, I feel like it's easier for me to lie on my side in my hammock. So my Dutch Chameleon is not as wide as my Dutch netless, and I do find it a little more difficult. I can still sleep on my side in my Dutch Chameleon, but having the wider hammock again allows me to have more freedom to move around and to sleep on my side, which is going to give me a better night's sleep in my hammock. My next tip for sleeping better in your hammock involves the insulation that is underneath you while you sleep. Now for me, I prefer an underquilt because when I sleep in my hammock, I don't just stay in one spot. I don't just sleep on my back. I move left to right, right to left. I sleep on my side sometimes, and I feel like the underquilt gives me better coverage than a sleeping pad. Because when I'm on a pad, my feet pop off or my shoulder will pop off as I'm moving around the night, and I'm constantly having to reshift and readjust my sleeping pad. And that's not comfortable. And I don't get a very good night's sleep when I have to do that. But when I'm using my underquilt, I feel like I can move around freely and still stay warm throughout the night, just like I do in my bed. So my preference for getting my best night's sleep in my hammock is using an underquilt over a sleeping pad. Pardon my boots and my hammock. Normally I don't wear boots, but it's winter here in northern Colorado, and yeah, I'm not taking them off. But I did want to illustrate a couple of things, So here's my underquilt, and right now it is set up to me be laying left to right and to be able to lay flat. And my feet are covered with the underquilt. But like I said, I like to move around during the night. And now, because my underquilt is was more set up to lay the other way, now my left foot and sometimes even my right are going to be exposed and come out from underneath the underquilt. So underquilts are, they are tricky. They do take some fine tuning. I'm a huge fan of underquilts, but if you watch a lot of my videos this past year, you'll notice when I use my Dutch Chameleon, I have a Jacks or Better underquilt that is zipped onto that, and that is fantastic. So having that underquilt zipped on really eliminates this problem with my feet, because it's always up on the sides and my feet never pop out left or right. And that's really nice because I do like to move and my feet do get cold from time to time. But having that underquilt zipped on to my Dutch Chameleon, man, that has been a game changer for me, in my hammock experience and even in my sleeping experience and keeping warm during the night. Another tip for sleeping better in your hammock is using a pillow. Yes, I like to bring a pillow on my backpacking trips. Do you need a pillow? No, but I do think it gives you a better night's sleep in your hammock. And I've tried other types of pillows where, you use your puffy, you roll it up in its pocket and you put it underneath your neck. I've used clothes bags before, and none of those are comfortable. Do they work? Yeah, they'll work. But I think having a pillow provides a better night sleep. And, pillows now, these inflatable ones, are only 3 ounces, so you're not adding a lot of weight to your pack. And to me, it's just so much more comfortable to have a pillow. And for me, I don't inflate my pillow completely. I have it deflated, probably about half, because what I like my head to be able to sink in a little bit, and then it to kind of wrap up around my ears. That's what's most comfortable for me. Plus, the pillow provides me some insulation from my neck to my head. So my underquilt doesn't have to be all the way up. It can just come to my shoulder, which is going to give me greater coverage down by my feet. So a pillow just really makes my night of sleeping in a hammock so much more better. My final tip for sleeping more comfortable in your hammock is keeping your feet warm. So you'll notice there's a theme to this of when you're warm in your hammock, you are going to sleep better. Well, for me, when I do get cold, the first thing that gets cold for me are my feet. And so when I sleep in my hammock, like I said, sometimes I'm left to right, sometimes I'm right to left. And if your underquilt is not aligned just correctly, your feet are going to come off of that underquilt and they're going to start to get cold. So that's a problem that I deal with because I do move around. I do move around a lot in my hammock when I sleep. So a couple things that I do to help keep my feet warm during the night is, I wear these insulated booties. and they are fantastic. You know, they only weigh, you know, a couple ounces, and they really do keep my feet warm. And sometimes I'll even bring an extra pair of socks, and I'll have the extra pair of socks and I'll put on my booties, and that'll help keep my feet warm if they start moving off of the hammock. Another thing that I'll use is a pillow. Sometimes I'll use my pillow or my clothes bag or maybe even my butt pad, and I will put that down by my feet as well, because again, my feet are constantly moving left to right, and sometimes they pop off. So having that insulation underneath them is going to keep them warm. So that's something I'm always focused on when I'm sleeping in my hammock, is trying to keep my feet warm during the night. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Those are some of the tips that I use to get a better night's sleep in my hammock. Again, these are very practical tips for new beginners, and hopefully they'll help you sleep better in your hammock. See you in the next hammock video.